Welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're heading to a fascinating place,
Yeah,
Northern Cyprus.
a lot going on there.
We've got a ton of great excerpts from Wikipedia to sort of guide our conversation.
Great source.
And believe me, you're in for some surprises, I think.
Absolutely.
We're talking about a republic that's recognized by only one other nation on the planet.
It's really interesting. It's that unique status
Yeah,
that really makes Northern Cyprus so fascinating.
right.
This political limbo has shaped its culture and economy
Absolutely.
in really, really interesting ways.
So let's start with some basics.
Okay.
Northern Cyprus declared independence back in 1983,
Mhm.
calling itself the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, or
Yeah.
TRNC.
TRNC.
And the only country that recognizes it as a legitimate state is Turkey.
That's right. And that lack of recognition stems directly from the events of 1974,
Oh, yeah.
when Turkey invaded Cyprus.
Right.
The island was, and technically still is, divided as a result.
So some of our listeners might be thinking, hold on, invasion, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
And you'd be right.
Of course.
The UN certainly condemned it.
Mm-hmm.
But to understand why it happened, we need to rewind a bit further.
Yeah, we need some context here.
Yeah.
So the Turkish invasion was a direct response to a coup d'etat that was orchestrated by the Greek military junta in Cyprus.
Wow.
Their aim was to annex Cyprus to Greece, and that really violated the agreements guaranteeing Cyprus's independence.
So it was a really tense situation.
Oh, absolutely. Turkey, as one of the guarantor powers of Cyprus's independence, saw this coup as a direct threat to the Turkish Cypriot population and felt compelled to intervene militarily.
So the invasion, while controversial, wasn't entirely unprovoked.
Right.
It was a reaction to this attempt to kind of erase the Turkish Cypriot presence.
Exactly. And it's this chain of events that ultimately led to the Declaration of Independence
Right.
by the Turkish Cypriots in the north.
In the north.
But as we mentioned, without widespread international recognition,
Yeah.
things are really difficult for them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They face economic embargoes, travel restrictions.
Wow.
Imagine trying to navigate a world
Right.
that doesn't acknowledge your country even exists.
It really makes you wonder how people manage to kind of build a life
Yeah,
under those circumstances.
right.
Yet, from what we've gathered, it seems like they're even thriving in some ways.
Yeah, they're resilient.
Our sources describe the TRNC as a semi-presidential democratic republic.
Okay.
Can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, so essentially they have a system very similar to countries like France or Portugal,
Okay.
where you have both a president who is the head of state
Okay.
and a prime minister who leads the government.
Got it.
So think of it as a blend of presidential and parliamentary systems.
Okay.
And despite the challenges they face, they hold regular elections and have a multi-party system.
That's impressive considering they're operating under international pressure and isolation.
Mm.
What about their economy? Embargoes can't be good for business.
Well, you'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But they've managed to carve out a niche for themselves.
Huh.
Surprisingly, their economy is largely driven by the service sector,
Okay.
particularly tourism and education.
Tourism, really?
I know, it's fascinating
Yeah.
how they've managed to attract visitors despite the political complexities.
That's really interesting.
And here's a real head-scratcher. They have a booming casino industry.
What?
Yeah, it seems folks from Turkey and even the Republic of Cyprus,
Whoa.
where gambling is outlawed,
Oh, wow.
flock to northern Cyprus to try their luck.
That's wild. You'd think being so close to the Republic of Cyprus, which uses the euro,
Right.
they would too,
You would think.
but they've opted for the Turkish lira.
It really underlines how closely tied they are to Turkey,
Yeah,
both economically and politically.
absolutely. That dependence on Turkey is a key factor in their survival.
For sure.
It's almost like they've created their own little world
Yeah.
within a world that doesn't fully recognize them. So we've got this unusual political situation, a unique economic setup,
Right.
and a cultural blend that's both Turkish and undeniably Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, let's delve a bit deeper into the landscape and the environment.
Okay.
Northern Cyprus isn't just a political oddity.
Hmm.
It's also a place of incredible natural beauty.
Okay. Bring on the scenic tour.
Picture the Kyrenia Mountains rising dramatically along the northern coast.
Okay.
The fertile Mesorea Plain stretching across the center of the island,
Okay.
and the Carpus Peninsula, a slender finger of land reaching out into the Mediterranean Sea.
Wow.
It's quite stunning.
The Kyrenia Mountains, the Miseria Plain, the Carpus Peninsula.
Yeah.
It sounds like something out of a travel brochure.
It really is beautiful.
And speaking of the Carpus Peninsula, I have to ask about something I found in our research.
Oh, yeah.
Wild donkeys.
The famous wild donkeys of Carpus.
Tell me more.
They're a real symbol of the peninsula.
So where did they come from?
Well, their history is actually quite interesting.
Okay.
It's believed they were originally just domesticated donkeys
Oh, really?
that were either abandoned or escaped centuries ago.
Ooh.
And gradually they formed these feral populations.
Wow, so they're just roaming free.
They're free to roam the Carpus Peninsula, and the TRNC government has actually implemented measures to protect them.
That's amazing.
It's quite heartwarming to see a government prioritize animal welfare
Yeah.
in such a way. Yeah, especially given all the political and economic challenges they face.
It really is a good news story.
Yeah.
What else can you tell us about the natural world in northern Cyprus?
Well, besides the donkeys, northern Cyprus boasts diverse flora and fauna.
Okay.
You've got everything from rugged mountain terrain to pristine beaches.
Wow.
And a variety of species call this unique environment home.
That's fantastic.
They even have sea turtles that nest on some of the beaches,
Oh, wow.
which are protected by conservation groups.
Sea turtles. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot more to northern Cyprus than just political complexities.
Oh.
There's this whole other layer of natural wonder to explore.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the people.
Okay.
Our sources describe a vibrant and diverse culture, this blend of Turkish traditions and Mediterranean influences.
It's really a fascinating mix.
Yeah, I'm curious to know more about the social fabric of this place.
Well, you can see the Turkish influence in the architecture, the cuisine, and the language.
Of course.
Turkish is the official language.
Right.
But you'll also hear English spoken widely, especially in the tourism industry.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, there's that Mediterranean flair.
Oh, yeah.
A love of good food music,
Yeah.
a relaxed pace of life.
It sounds lovely.
It's a place where you can enjoy a traditional Turkish coffee in the morning
Okay.
and then spend the afternoon sipping on a glass of local wine overlooking the Mediterranean Sea.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
What about religion?
Mm-hmm.
I know Turkey is a predominantly Muslim country.
Right.
So I'm assuming that's reflected in northern Cyprus as well.
Yes, the majority of Turkish Cypriots are Sunni Muslims.
Oh, okay.
However, what's interesting is that religious attitudes tend to be fairly moderate and secular.
Huh.
You won't necessarily see the same level of outward religious observance
Okay.
that you might find in other parts of the Muslim world.
Interesting.
It's more about personal faith and tradition than strict adherence to religious law.
So a fairly relaxed approach to religion.
I would say so.
It seems like that open-mindedness extends to other aspects of life as well.
It seems to, yeah.
What about the arts and culture scene?
Yeah,
Anything unique or unexpected there?
definitely. Despite the political and economic challenges,
Wow.
there's a thriving arts community in northern Cyprus.
Okay.
You'll find traditional Turkish folk music and dance,
Mm-hmm.
but also contemporary art galleries, theaters, and music venues. They even host several international film and music festivals throughout the year.
Festivals, theaters?
Yeah.
It's a lot more cosmopolitan than I imagined.
It really is.
You know, when I think about northern Cyprus, I picture ancient ruins, beaches.
Right,
Definitely not bustling cultural events.
right.
It really challenges those preconceived notions
It does.
we often have about places we haven't experienced firsthand.
Absolutely.
What about education?
Okay.
I know you mentioned earlier that education is a significant part of their economy.
Yeah.
What's the education system like in a place that's essentially cut off from the rest of the world?
That's a great question. And you're right. It is a significant part of their economy.
Yeah.
There are several universities in northern Cyprus,
Huh.
and they attract students not just from Turkey, but also from other parts of the world.
Wow.
It's actually quite surprising considering the limitations imposed by the lack of international recognition.
It's almost like they've created their own academic bubble.
Yeah.
This self-contained world of learning.
I think that's a good way to put it.
It's got to be a unique experience for students studying there.
I would imagine so.
I imagine there's a strong sense of community within those universities.
Yeah, I would agree.
And the quality of education is apparently quite good.
They've had to adapt and be resourceful,
Right.
given their limited access to international resources and collaborations.
Yeah, I wonder what it's like for those students.
Yeah,
Do they ever feel limited by their circumstances?
it's a good question.
By the fact that their degrees might not be recognized in other countries,
Right.
it makes you think about their future prospects and what options they have. Yeah, it's a question worth pondering.
Hmm.
On one hand, you have the appeal of studying abroad,
Right.
experiencing different cultures and broadening your horizons.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have this unique opportunity to be part of a close-knit academic community,
Yeah.
to contribute to a society that's forging its own path.
Right.
It's a fascinating dilemma.
It really is. And it speaks to the resilience and adaptability of the Turkish Cypriot people. They face so many obstacles, yet they've managed to build a functional and in many ways thriving society.
It makes you realize that sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that don't make the headlines.
That's true.
The stories of everyday people navigating extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah.
And in this case, a whole community adapting and innovating
Mhm.
in the face of international isolation.
Absolutely. And it challenges us to look beyond the political narratives
Yeah.
and see the human side of the story.
Right.
These are individuals with hopes, dreams, and ambitions,
Mm-hmm.
just like anyone else.
Right.
They're making the best of a complex situation,
Right.
and that's something to admire.
So if we zoom out a bit,
Okay.
what does this deep dive into northern Cyprus teach us about the world? What are the bigger takeaways here?
Well, I think it underscores the importance of understanding multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
We often hear about Cyprus from the perspective of the Republic of Cyprus,
Right.
which is understandable since it's the internationally recognized government. But it's crucial to remember that there's another side to this story.
Yeah.
The Turkish Cypriot perspective,
Yeah.
their experiences, their
Right.
struggles, their aspirations,
Yeah.
they're all part of the bigger picture.
It's a reminder that the world is rarely black and white. For sure. There are shades of gray, complexities and nuances that we need to consider.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in the headlines and the political rhetoric, but taking a moment to understand the human stories behind those headlines can be incredibly enlightening.
Couldn't agree more. And I think this deep dive into northern Cyprus is a perfect example of that.
Absolutely.
We started with a simple question.
Yeah.
What's the deal with this unrecognized republic?
Right.
And we ended up exploring this tapestry of history, culture, politics, and human resilience.
We've talked about everything from wild donkeys to booming casinos.
It's true.
From political complexities to a thriving art scene, it's been quite a journey.
It has.
So what does this all mean for you, dear listener?
Well, perhaps it sparks your curiosity.
Yeah.
To learn more about northern Cyprus, to go beyond the headlines and delve deeper into the human stories that shape this unique place.
Absolutely.
Maybe it inspires you to challenge your own preconceived notions about the world
Yeah.
and to seek out a more nuanced understanding of complex issues.
We hope this deep dive has given you a taste of what Northern Cyprus is all about.
Yeah.
Its challenges, its triumphs, and its enduring spirit.
Hmm.
There's a whole world waiting to be discovered there.
It's true.
A world that's often overlooked, but rich in history, culture, and natural beauty.
And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to visit someday
Yeah.
and experience it all firsthand. Just imagine strolling through the Kyrenia Mountains,
Wow.
encountering a herd of wild donkeys, or sipping Turkish coffee in a charming village square.
It's a thought worth pondering.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.